How is this even fair? I'm going against a freaking penguin that's 10 times bigger than me. Oh my god, just what I needed. A Pokeball. There could be a legendary Pokemon in here, so I'll need to use this carefully. Let's go, Pokeball! Oh, you gotta be fucking kidding me. What is going on, guys? This is Dobbs here, bringing you another Pokemon video. And since I did a top 10 hilariously overpowered Pokemon video, I thought might as well do a top 10 hilariously weak Pokemon video. And just to give a little update, the next timeline video is coming soon. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the video, and without further ado, let's get started. Exploding at number 10, we have Electrode. Now imagine yourself sitting by a tree. It's an apple tree. And then all of a sudden an apple drops on your head and you explode! Meet Electrode, where every moment could be his last. Stated from his Pokédex, it stores electric energy under very high pressure. It often explodes with little or no provocation. So that means this miserable Pokemon could be destroyed by a splashing Magikarp, because it only takes one little jab in order to trigger its explosion. Speaking of explosions, this move is actually Electrode's signature move. I mean, I'd rather have Tackle as my signature move over exploding and killing myself. On top of that, its design is pretty weak. One of the weakest from the original Pokemon. It's literally a Pokeball turned upside down. But hey, who can not love the expression on Electrode's face? I mean, remember? Remember from Pokemon Snap?
Yes! Yeah! Wonderful!
Flying at number 9, we have Mega Garchomp. Now, of course, Garchomp is one of the strongest Pokemon in the competitive game. But Mega Garchomp, on the other hand, is what happens when you take a great Pokemon and make it mediocre at best. Here, let me explain. When Garchomp Mega evolves, its speed stat gets lowered, from a great 102 to a slightly above average 92, which leaves it vulnerable to be revenge killed by Pokemon that would normally outspeed. Not to mention that there's loads of Pokemon out there with a base speed stat higher than 92, which leaves Mega Garchomp to the disadvantage. Another thing that really puts a dent in Garchomp when it Mega evolves is that it loses a very useful ability, Rough Skin, and is replaced by a very situational ability called Sand Force, which is basically a life form that only works with ground, rock, and steel type moves, while being in a sandstorm. So in order for Mega Garchomp to be of any use, it needs to have a set up Pokemon like Tyranitar to help activate its ability. But the hilarity of this weakened Pokemon is that regular Garchomp holding a life orb actually slightly does more damage than Mega Garchomp, and on top of that it has better speed and a more useful ability. To put it simple, Mega Garchomp is a straight up downgrade to regular Garchomp, with only a very small niche while losing a very important speed stat, which is why some people think that Mega Garchomp is actually worse than Mega Ardino, but that's a topic for another video. Teleporting you at number 8, we have Sabrina Zabar from Pokemon Yellow. Now this Abra is a straight up failure because it sets up Sabrina's team for a disaster. The only two moves this Abra knows is Teleport and Flash, which doesn't impact the player at all. Now if you didn't know, there was a glitch back in Generation 1 where the item X Accuracy not only improved your accuracy, but it gave you perfect accuracy. Knowing this, you could bring all havoc with a Nidoking ignoring Horn Drill because you could literally one-hit everything that you came across that you outsped. Now getting back to Sabrina, it is well known that her Pokemon are pretty fast, so Horn Drill would have no effect. To bypass this, you have to do absolutely nothing because Sabrina will allow you to set up because for some reason she decides to use Abra as her starting Pokemon. Just give your Nidoking a couple XPs and that X accuracy, and you're all set to get the easiest gym badge you will ever receive. And just in general, Abra is a pretty weak Pokemon, because it can only learn Teleport. I mean, Magikarp can learn more moves of this Pokemon naturally by leveling up. Not until it evolves at level 16 does it become a viable Pokemon. But in order to even get to that point, you need to babysit it with an XP share, which can be tough because you usually don't receive an XP share until later in the game. Crawling at number 7, we have the Unknown Bug Pokemon. Now in the very first chapter of the original Pokemon Pocket Monsters manga, Red and his new Pokemon, Clefairy, come across a group of wild Pokemon including the legendary Mewtwo. Mewtwo and his gang of wild Pokemon taunt Red by calling them weaklings. In order to defend his honor, Red orders Clefairy to attack one of the nearby bug Pokemon. It seems that it only takes Clefairy one attack to defeat this unknown Pokemon, which allows Red to capture it. Now according to Bubblepedia, the only known information about this Pokemon is that it's supposedly very weak. Which is kind of funny because even Magikarp has more recorded information on it besides being very weak. Now surprisingly in the manga, this bug Pokemon actually escapes from Red, The only reason why this happened was because when Clefairy was being healed at the Pokemon Center, an accidental Power Surge shocked Shred, causing him to drop his Pokeball, allowing this weak Pokemon to escape. Which is pretty fortunate for the bug Pokemon, because there's no way that Red would ever use them. Climbing at number 6, we have the old Treecko from the Pokemon anime. Now in the Pokemon Advanced Generation series, in episode 7, Ash and his friends come across a Treecko colony led by an old looking Treecko. This Treecko had wrinkles and a hunched back along with all the key factors of being an old Pokemon. With this, it springs up an interesting question. Does evolution not relate to the aging process of a Pokemon? Ash actually catches one of the Treeckos from the same colony and eventually evolves it into a Sceptile, which indirectly disproves the connection between age and evolution. So really, what's the deal with this old Treecko? Along with that, what's the point of evolution if it's not an aging process? The only conclusion that I can come up with is that this Treecko was just so weak that it wasn't ever able to reach a level of evolution. Kinda like Yamcha from Dragon Ball Z. But anyways, it's kinda sad because the Treecko that Ash catches literally evolves twice within a few months of being caught. Maybe it's just a biological instinct to help a Pokemon defend itself when fighting predators. I mean, some Pokemon can shoot Hyper Beams out of their mouths after all, but apparently this Treecko was just so weak that it couldn't evolve. Which is why I put him at number 6 for this list. Floating at number 5, we have Jigglypuff from Smash Bros. 4. Now, most Smash 4 tier lists, Jigglypuff usually finds herself as the worst ranked character in the game. Due to how little shield stun there is from her attacks, many of her aerial attacks can be easily punished by most characters with a simple grab or jab. On top of that, this balloon Pokemon hardly ever has priority when fighting in the air, which is a huge disadvantage considering how Jigglypuff's main strategy is to zone out her opponents so they are unable to recover. Which, if you didn't know, is the reason why Jigglypuff is an A-rank character in Smash Melee, because almost none of the top tier characters can recover from her massive zoning. But in Smash 4, that's a whole different story because a lot of the new characters possess great recovery, and the fact that ledge hogging is no longer possible in the game, it makes it really tough for Jigglypuff. On top of that, Jigglypuff is already in a disadvantage because of her light weight, meaning not having a lot of safe kill options as a character, Jigglypuff can die ridiculously early to a vertical kill move or a ledge throw. But the funniest part about Jigglypuff from Smash 4 is that there's a website called Buff the Puff, which literally counts the number of days Jigglypuff has gone without a patch, which definitely says that this balloon Pokemon is considerably weak. Swimming at number 4, we have the legendary Pokemon Fiona. Now back in the day when I first discovered this Pokemon, the first thought that went through my mind was, what's the point of this Pokemon? It's basically a clone of Manaphy. Some say Fiona was only created because Game Freak wanted a legendary Pokemon that was capable of breeding. But that doesn't really make any sense because Fiona can't even evolve into Manaphy. She's literally just a lesser form of that Pokemon. In every possible way, in fact, Fiona is weaker than Manaphy. On top of that, she's even heavier than Manaphy, which will cause her to take more damage when going against moves that use weight as a factor. So basically, we have a lesser, weaker version of a legendary Pokemon. It's like the exact opposite of Mewtwo. Mewtwo was bred from Mew, but was born stronger. After researching further about this Pokemon, I found that apparently Fiona is the result when Manaphy breeds outside the cold oceans of the Ranger regions. Only in the regions of the Rangers, a Manaphy can be produced. Which is kind of interesting, but still, for the fact that Fiona is literally a lesser version of Manaphy, I chose Fiona for number 4. Growing at number 3, we have Sunkern. Now what's the top 10 weakest Pokemon list without including the Pokemon with the lowest stat total? That's right, you heard that correctly. Sunkern has the lowest stat total out of all the 802 Pokemon. With a whopping 180, Sunkern has a base stat of 30 across the board. But not to worry, her stats in each category isn't the lowest. For HP, Shedinja holds the crown for having the lowest out of all the Pokemon at a frightening 1. For attack and defense, Happening and Chansey take that place with a chilling 5. For special attack, Feebats, Bonsly, and Shuckle are tied for last with a smacking 10. For special defense, Magikarp, Weedle, Caterpie, Igglypuff, Carvanha, and surprisingly Deoxys attack form are tied with a staggering 20. And finally for speed, Munchlax and Shuckle are tied with a shocking 5. But anyways, getting back to Sunkern, this fragile flower could probably be crushed by a floating leaf. The only thing this Pokemon has going for it is that it apparently, according to the Pokédex, drops from the sky. But even going at the speed of gravity, Sunkern probably couldn't even break the grass below her. But it's okay, at least she's adorable. I mean, who could not love this little flower Pokemon sticking her tongue out? Stomping at number 2, we have Regigigas from the Japanese versions of Pokemon Diamond and Pearl. Now like we all know, Regigigas is the trio master of the 3 Regis of the Hoenn region. Tied for 10th for having the highest base stat total out of all the Pokemon, one would think that this trio master is a force not to be reckoned with. That's until you find out about Slow Start, the complete nerf of this monster. Slow Start is unfortunately Regigigas' signature ability, which cuts his attack and speed for 5 turns. On top of that, Regigigas was purposely not given Protect so that the trainer couldn't avoid 3 out of the 5 turns of being hit. Even with its insane nerf, Regigigas only has Drain Punch for self-healing, which is a really tough move to utilize with Slow Start when in a singles battle. Now you're probably wondering why I said the Japanese version of Diamond and Pearl specifically when counting down this list. According to the Bubblepedia, in the Japanese versions of Diamond and Pearl, Regigigas' stat changes from Slow Start would not change even when the moves like Skill Swap or Worry Seed was used, which put a huge handicap on this Trio Master. Not surprisingly, it was confirmed by the developers that Slow Start was an attempt to balancing out Regigigas. In terms of the Pokemon lore, there really isn't any history on how Regigigas obtained this ability. But not to worry, if you're curious on how you obtain Slow Start, I did a storytelling video on how Regigigas could have obtained this ability. Just check out the video shown on the screen now or down below in the description. But anyways, for the fact that Regigigas literally had the same attack as Pikachu for 5 turns, I chose Regigigas for number 2 on this list. And for number 1, the most hilariously weak Pokemon, in my opinion, is Pichu from Super Smash Bros. Melee. Pichu was definitely a surprise when unlocking all the characters for the first time. No one expected that this pre-evolution mouse would make it into such a prestigious game, and that's exactly what Sakurai, the creator of Smash, wanted. Being an intentionally inferior clone of Pikachu, Pichu is defined as a joke character, with many significant weaknesses. On top of that, Pichu racks up damage every time it attacks, making Smash Bros. Melee the only game to stay true to Pichu's Pokédex entry, where it describes it harming itself when using its own electricity. To make it worse, Sakurai says so himself that Pichu was intentionally made to be the worst character on the roster. But honestly, that makes it even better because defeating an opponent with a top tier character, even if it's one stock, is straight up humiliation, and nothing can beat that. Surprisingly enough, Pichu on most Smash tier lists is the 3rd worst in the game, Kirby and Bowser being below him. Some think Kirby was made to be the worst because Sakurai didn't want to be accused of creator bias, since Sakurai is the creator of Kirby after all. But anyways, for being intentionally made as a weak character with an inferior moveset and a handicap, I chose Pichu for number 1 on this list. So yeah, those are the top 10 hilariously weak Pokemon. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Be sure to leave a like if you did, I appreciate it a ton. And also, if you're enjoying the channel, be sure to subscribe. And if you want to follow me on Twitter for fan interactions, video updates, and other cool stuff, follow me at Ethan Dobbs. And for the question of the day, who do you think is the weakest Pokemon? Be sure to leave it down below in the comments. I can't wait to see you guys have in mind. And I'll see y'all next time. See ya.